The voice of the witch who never died. In a small village forgotten by time, called Raven's Hollow, there is a legend that has crossed generations as a dark secret. When the clock strikes midnight and the wind runs through the trees as if fleeing from something, you can hear it. A whisper, a song, a voice. Those who have had the misfortune of hearing it say it does not belong to this world. They say it is the voice of the witch who never died. Do you feel the hairs on your neck stand up? That's because the story I'm about to tell is not just any tale. This is the curse of Sarah Crow, a woman accused of witchcraft, who promised, before being burned alive, that she would never be forgotten. And she kept her promise. Today, you will not only learn about the legend, but also the most terrifying secrets surrounding Raven's Hollow. A true story? A legend? You decide if you can make it to the end. Raven's Hollow has always been a quiet village, surrounded by dense forests and a river whose waters whisper ancient secrets. In the 17th century, the villagers lived simply, fearful of the unknown, and united by unwavering faith. But like every community, there were fears that went beyond reason, and Sarah Crow was the target of these fears. Sarah was a solitary woman who lived in a cabin on the edge of the forest. Her knowledge of medicinal herbs, her ability to predict rain, and her skill in healing the sick made her essential, but also the target of suspicion. In an era when science was seen as witchcraft, Sarah became the perfect scapegoat when a plague struck the village. The plague was cruel. Children died in their beds. Adults withered away in a matter of days. And the village needed an explanation. When the pastor's son fell ill and Sarah couldn't cure him, the rumors turned into accusations. Which they shouted, "She brought the plague to destroy us." Sarah was dragged from her cabin in the dead of night. The angry mob took her to the oldest tree in the village, known as the Hanging Oak, where so many others had met their end. But Sarah did not beg for mercy. She only looked at each face in the crowd and said, with disturbing calm, "You can burn my body, but my voice will never be silenced. I will return, and when I do, your secrets will be revealed." When the flames consumed her body, a supernatural wind blew through the village, carrying her last words, "I will return." Years passed, but Sarah's vow became part of the village's lore. They say her voice can be heard in the forest on full moon nights, and those who hear it are never the same again. In the present, Raven's Hollow is a ghost town, visited only by the curious and urban legend hunters. Among them are siblings Emily and Nathan, young documentarians who decided to explore the area for a new project about legends that never die. Armed with cameras, recorders, and old maps, they arrive in Raven's Hollow on a cloudy day, with an atmosphere so heavy it seemed to warn them to leave. "This is perfect," said Nathan, adjusting the camera. "If we can capture something authentic, this documentary will make us famous." "Or dead," Emily joked, but her smile was tense. She felt something, a presence perhaps. It was as though the invisible eyes of the village were upon them. As night fell, they decided to explore the forest. They crossed the old rusted gate that led to the Hanging Oak. The place had a strange aura. The wind seemed to whisper between the leaves, and Emily swore she heard her name being called. When they reached the tree, they found strange symbols carved into the wood, and on the ground, a small mirror partially buried. Nathan picked up the mirror, ignoring Emily's protests. "This must be some sort of artifact related to the legend," he said, examining the object. The mirror was old, with carved edges that resembled faces screaming. When Emily looked at the reflection, she saw something that wasn't there. A woman with burned eyes and a twisted mouth in a terrifying smile. When they returned to camp, something was different. The voices in the forest were louder, clearer. They called their names as if they knew them. Emily woke in the middle of the night to the sound of laughter, But when she left the tent, she found Nathan standing before the tree, holding the mirror. "Nathan, what are you doing?" she asked, but he didn't answer. His eyes were glazed, and he muttered something incomprehensible. Suddenly, he turned and handed the mirror to Emily. "You need to see," he said. When Emily looked again, the woman in the reflection was now moving. She whispered, "You came to listen to me. Now you can't leave." The next morning, Emily found an old diary in Sarah's abandoned cabin. The pages revealed horrifying details. Sarah was not just a healer, but also practiced rituals to protect herself from human injustices. One of these rituals bound her soul to the tree, ensuring her voice would never fade. As Emily read the diary, something terrible began to happen. The words on the pages started moving, rearranging into messages that seemed to speak directly to her. "Will you also be forgotten?" Read one of the phrases that flickered on the page. The sound of muffled laughter echoed through the cabin, though Emily was alone. Meanwhile, Nathan didn't seem the same. He no longer spoke, only whispering words in a language Emily didn't recognize. His eyes had an unnatural pallor, as if something invisible was consuming him. When Emily tried to take the mirror from his hands, he reacted violently, pushing her against the wall with a force that didn't seem human. "We are the same voice now," Nathan said, his voice echoing as if multiple voices spoke at once. Emily, horrified, realized that Nathan's reflection in the mirror was no longer his. It was the face of Sarah Crow. Desperate, Emily returned to the tree. She needed to end this, but the diary made it clear. To break the bond, someone had to sacrifice themselves and become the vessel for the voice. 6. A terrifying and mysterious ending. Emily held the mirror as the wind around her roared, as if the forest itself were alive. The figure of Sarah formed before her, now more solid and terrifying, with burned eyes and a smile revealing sharp teeth like blades. "You called me to listen, but now you must decide," Sarah said, her voice echoing like a choir of laments. "The curse needs a body." Nathan appeared behind Emily, but he was no longer her brother. His movements were erratic, almost like a puppet. "Emily, give her the mirror," he murmured, but his voice was distorted, as if two people were speaking at once. In a desperate act, Emily hurled the mirror at the tree, shattering it into 1,000 pieces. A deafening scream echoed through the forest, and for a moment, everything went silent. But when Emily opened her eyes, she realized something was wrong. Sarah's reflection was now in every fragment of the mirror, scattered throughout the forest, each whispering different words. Nathan collapsed on the ground, lifeless, but Emily noticed the whispers didn't stop. They were inside her head. "Now you are my voice," Sarah said, smiling. The final scene shows Emily walking out of the forest, but something is different. Her shadow, cast by the moonlight, is not hers. It is Sarah Crow's. What happened to Emily? Was the curse truly broken, or has it just begun? Would you have the courage to listen to the witch's voice until the end? The decision is yours, but be careful, for those who listen are never the same again.